Hello and welcome to CTL TV Kerbal Space Program. We are in the sandbox mode, so money is not an object, prestige is an object, but we've got infinite amounts of it, and all the usual stuff with career mode is not going to be a factor. And we are going to try and do a mission to the moon. Looking very Death Star like. Have no idea how it's going to go, honestly. So we'll strap some stuff together and see how we go. Let's get into it. First of all, to our vehicle assembly building, where all the magic happens. Going to be creating rockets, and Werner von Kermans thinks I haven't played before, which is half right. I played a bit, but doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. So let's see how we go. I want to try and do a Apollo style lunar mission. So we'll have a command module and a lunar module that will dock, and the lunar module will go down to the surface while the command module goes around the moon, and they'll redock again and come back with all that sort of stuff. We're going to be doing science experiments along the way and there, etc. So we need to organize all this sort of stuff. Many ways we can do it, but I think we'll just go with an Apollo style thing. So first thing we need is our capsule. So again, we'll use the 3-seater. Let's get that in there. Next thing we need is our sort of area for doing all our science experiments, storing all our fuel and battery power, etc. Because we need to provide all that in this game. We need to make sure there's communications, we need to make sure there's power, we need to make sure there's thrust, we need to make sure there's heat protection, we need to make sure that there's food, but not really. They probably got sandwiches in there somewhere. So we'll get a service bay in here. Where is that going to be? Payload probably. Yes, 2.5 meter, and in here we can start sticking stuff that we'll need, and this whole contraption will be making it back through the atmosphere. But that'll be it. Everything else is going to get burnt up and or used in the mission, just as was the case with the real Apollo. So let's open her up and start stuffing it full of stuff. First thing I think we should organize is probably the power. So we'll get batteries, we'll get rechargeable stuff for like solar panels that will help recharge the batteries, and that will power all the systems, as you know what a battery does. So let's get that in there. Let's try with this 200 charge, a couple of them, or what do we got? 1000 charge, even better. Stick that there, pretty good. And solar panels that extend out would be nice. 1x6. Let's do 2 of them. Coming out. So power for this capsule, and indeed pretty much anything that connects to it, will be fine, but this is going to be where the magic happens, mainly. That's already pretty much done. Cool. So communications are next. We're not going too far from Kerbal, so not a great deal of signal strength will be required, but there is aesthetics to consider. We want to make sure it looks kind of normal. So let's use this particular aerial, which doesn't relay signals, but again, we're so close to Kerbal, the lunar module can hit Kerbal direct with its signals, even with a weak antenna. And if it's on the far side of the moon and requires a relay, this won't do it, but we'll just wait for the window to open again and send the signals if that's what it takes. So we'll stick this one on just for the aesthetics. Overpowered, but it looks cool. As you can see, we don't need 2, so just 1 will do. Cool. And now we'll need our science experiments for the command module, which is never going to be on the lunar surface. It's only going to be in space and the atmosphere a little bit while it's leaving the atmosphere and returning. Very small windows, so I don't think we'll do any experiments with the atmosphere, but we can test other things. For example, the temperature. So we'll put a thermometer in here, which is not behaving. What we might actually do first is stick a computer in here that helps control the capsule. So if the pilot is incapacitated, the pilot's dead, or if the pilot just sucks, the computer can fly the ship. So let's stick one of those in. Command Control Octo 2. We can look at what it does. Will also give us access to KerbNet, which will analyze the surface of the planet, etc., or the moon in this case, and will give us stability assists, hold for prograde, retrograde, and so the computer can hold courses and things that we want. That's handy. Stick that on there. We'll also need reaction wheel control, which is a way to maneuver the spacecraft in 0G, because obviously you can't push against anything, there's nothing to push against. We can use thrusters, we'll add those as well, but there's also reaction wheels, we'll use electricity to do that. We'll be able to add rotational force via electricity, so we can stick those in as well, or one in. Let's do that. Advanced reaction wheel module large. These are really handy to have sort of halfway down the craft, but we'll stick it here because it's easier, and we'll bring it back and save the money. We won't lose it to the ages in an atmosphere somewhere. Alright, cool. Speaking of reaction control, we will stick those on now. We'll get, these are thrusters, little small thrusters that fire to maneuver the craft, again in 0G. So here they are, thruster blocks. 4 of those, around about as close to the middle of mass as we can get. Mind you, there's going to be a lot more mass below it with the fuel and the engines and all that, but we might move it later. For now, they need some of their own fuel, RCS fuel. So how big is a 120? About that. So actually what we'll do is, we'll take this off, we'll stick this in there, and we'll stick him on the bottom. Looking better already. Yes, that's quite good. And now we can start sticking our experiments in, because there's something to grab that's not going to annoy us and behave better. So thermometer, we can test the temperatures of things in space, which I suspect is going to be not much. Other side, analyze atmosphere again. Won't be doing much of that. Scanning arms for rovers. The seismic accelerometer will measure seismic activity, so it will measure geological activities, but that's more for the lander, so not so much here. That's a bin for storing experiments. Negative graviole detector, we can use that. We'll detect gravity around the place. Narrowbands, this is all a bit overkill. Magnetometer boom. These are new. I actually don't know how to use these yet, so let's learn together on that one. Stick it on there, but when it does deploy, it is pretty cool. Check that out. The power. Okay, I don't know what it does, but whatever. We'll find out. We have mystery goo. It's observed in different states of vacuum, etc. Only can be used once unless a scientist resets it. We got that. And a barometer, always handy. Again, I think we know what that's going to show most of the time when it's on the atmosphere. Surface scanning module, again a bit overkill. You can get the surface scanned with this and with this, and you can find deposits of ore which you then can mine with drills and all sorts of exciting things. It's way above our pay grade at the moment. We're going to try and not explode. So let's leave that there. We have power, we have control, we got reactionary control, we got communications, we got science. Not bad. I think that's pretty close to almost being done for a command module. We need docking, of course, and this will dock with a lunar module. So where is our coupling? On she goes, a bit of shielding for aerodynamics, very nice. And when it makes it back through the atmosphere, we want to sort of not plunge to our deaths and die in a fiery, flaming, limb-strewn wreck. So we'll stick some parachutes on it, if you don't mind. Get a bit of controlled descent. Control is something we can't guarantee, but we can hope for. It's good old Cram Lab. That's for science. We got drogue chute, will help us stay upright, etc. on the way down before the main ones fire, so we can stick one of those on as well. Okay, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we need. No, I don't think so. So, given that this is coming through the atmosphere, this is the last piece left. This has to have a heat shield on it, protect from the friction. So on she goes. And given that it has to separate, we will have to separate it with a, let's have a look. There's a decoupler, will fire in one direction, and the stack separator fires in both directions, so you get more of a separation on those ones. More dramatic, doesn't really matter for our task. Oh, that's pretty huge. 25. So this will push that way and force it off. Whatever's below it, which would be fuel and motors, with the heat shield to help re-entry. Okay. Speaking of motors and fuel, this part needs to be powered all the way from Kerbal to the moon, around the moon, back, etc. So we need a bit of fuel and some decent motors. So let's get on that. Engines, whatever you fancy calling them. This is gonna... Alright, I think that's probably a bit much. My suspicion... Might not be quite enough. Let's see how much that is like when we find a good engine to pair with it. How much delta V, how much action, how much velocity change we can get. So we need to go through these and find, given this part will be operating in a vacuum almost the entire time, well yeah, pretty much the entire time, we need something that will work well in the vacuum, and it doesn't matter particularly how much power it has in atmosphere. So we can go through a few of these smaller ones. It's different sort of propulsion, and jet engines are no good. The Mastodon, very, very, very powerful. 305 in a vacuum, 290 at sea level. So roughly the same in both, and a lot of power, a lot of weight. Probably not good for us. This one better already, 340 in a vacuum. 300, smaller ones 315, smaller one again, etc. This one's the best, but again, very small amount of power, 60 kilonewtons is tiny, but that will be handy for a lander craft for later. Atomic motor, very good as you can see in a vacuum, but not much power for what you get. It's very good for long range duration using different fuel. Obviously it's an atomic fuel type. We're not going to be doing that. 310, 320, 310, 355, excellent. Definitely worth a look, that one. Not particularly powerful, if you can see here, 125, but we can use a couple of them or three of them or something. Well, that's worth a look. Small little one, 330, 320, 310, 350, the best so far. With a fair bit of power too, 250 kilonewtons. 380, wow. 375, alright, that's got to be a winner, right? 380 in a vacuum is pretty good. 300. Okay, I reckon the Wolfhound wins. So let's stick that on. Okay, now we get an idea of how far we can go. It says 831 meters per second, but that is at sea level. So we change it to vacuum where it's going to operate. We get a lot of delta V, which is good. Very, very good. Possibly too much, even. We'll come back to that. But now we can probably move these closer to the center of mass, where they'll do better work. So we can look at the center of mass there. And there we go. Since our reaction wheel is not near the center of mass, we might as well put our thrusters in the center of mass. Alright, that's looking better. I'm pretty happy with that. As it stands, I just know from experience that to get into orbit requires 4,500 odd delta V from sea level. So in a combination of very powerful engines at sea level up through the atmosphere into the vacuum, and that'll get you into orbit. And then it's a couple of thousand, say 1,500, 1,800, so there and back. So we need maybe 7,000, 8,000 odd totals. Just keep that in mind as we go forward. Okay, so what we need to do now is get our lunar module into our sort of payload. Our payload is going to sit below here, and as we get into an orbit, we can separate, dock the lunar module with this, and then fire the whole thing to the moon. So next up is going to be our payload bay, or our sort of our cargo area, which is going to have to be separated. So first port of call is going to be a decoupler. There we go. And then we need to start our lunar module, which will have a docking port first, which will help dock to the command module, but also help to dock here. It's a nice little nifty way to have it sit in the cargo area. Where is it? It'd be coupling, surely. There we go. Okay, so one of them. And then a lunar lander, if you please. Mark II. On she goes. Lovely. Now, just as with the command module, we'll have to have the same considerations here. We'll have to have power. We'll have to have power recharging. We'll have to have communications. We'll have to have science. We'll have to have monorepellents for reaction control systems in a vacuum, so we can also maneuver around the same as we do for the other ones. All the other command modules. So let's open the door. Let's get power first. Always handy. Let's get a few batteries in there. A couple there. Maybe a couple more. There we go. Artistic. Okay. We need to have the power recharge, so we need some solar panels in there. Now, given this is going to be on its own, protected all the way up, we don't have to have them retract and come out and all that sort of stuff, so we can just have them flat on the outside. When it's in the shadow of the moon, again, provided we make it this far, then we'll just have to wait for them to recharge. Alright, that's probably a little bit too large, right? May look good to me. Cool. Alright, batteries. Alright, now communications. So again, this is not very far for this craft. Definitely not very far back to the command module. We can use one of these extender Communitron 16. The antenna type is direct. Sometimes they're relay. They'll take information and relay them on. The rating will tell us the distance, but in this mode as well, we have the strongest receiving center. So very much overkill to have anything bigger than this for such a close mission, but we did so for the command module, but we definitely don't need to do so for this. So we'll just put this one on here. That'll be able to extend. Cool. Okay. On to the science experiments we'll be able to do. The same as before for the surface of the moon. One thermometer. One barometric pressure. Gravity. We will be able to do the seismic accelerometer. We'll be able to measure when it's on the ground. It can feel for little earthquakes or whatever if the surface is, or if the body is active. But we'll put that close to the ground. I'm going to add some motor forces now and some fuel. So let's get that on there. Which one do we use? This one, right? So a bit of that. Now, if you remember, we found that engine in the vacuum that was lighter but very powerful in a vacuum. This is going to definitely spend nothing but a time in a vacuum. 345 is very good return. What we also can do is we can sort of channel the thrust into that smaller engine size. Where is it though? That one. I mean, it's pretty aesthetic. Have a go at that. Not bad. Okay, so we've got power, we've got science, we've got communications, we've got some thrust. We'll finish off the science actually. We'll put that accelerometer on there. Detect things. For landing, if it ends up in the dark, we might need some light. So we can add some Illuminator Mark II on there as well. We can even have them fold up and down, which is, if you're really showy bastard, you can do that. So let's do that. What do you reckon? Get the hinge on there. 4 of them. Mount the lights on there, then they can kind of, we can make them hinge different angles and things. So they can start there, come out, and then go on, etc. Let's see where the gear goes first. So we get our strongest gear on there. Looking pretty good. So, you know, make it a bit more aesthetic. Okay. Gear up. Now what's left is we need a ladder. We need some reaction control thrusters, because it really is going to need some help to move around in a vacuum. So let's sort that second problem first. We know how to do that, we've done it before. Get these on here. Get fuel for it. It's pretty big, isn't it? What about stick some of these in the roof? There we go. Gonna be a bit more cramped inside the capsule, but all good. Alright, just trying to think of anything else we need in here. Oh yeah, the ladder. So this one will do. How about just one? Quite nicely, I think. Kerbals to get down the ladder and claim the moon for CTL TV. Yes, quite nice. Alright, so we need to encase this in a cargo area for the payload fairings, which we have, conveniently enough, believe it or not. So let's get it on there. How about that, hey? Pretty funky. Now, all of this is going to come back in just this, and this part's going to go to the moon and all that kind of, but most of the work to be done on the ground. We're going to try and get this out of the atmosphere. It's a lot of work, a lot of energy. So we need a decoupler for this last stage to get rid of all the thrust. The big booster stage is going to have to do all the work, all the pushing. So the bigger the cushion, you know the rest. Let's get it going on. Nah, we know that's not that one, isn't it? We did it before, so it must be this one. Yes, in fact it is. Maybe another one. Alright, now the same problem as before, not problem, but same thing to consider as wow, this is a really big rocket. Probably doesn't have to be this big, but that's the thing, we can check out the best motors for the situation being the opposite of before, where we need nothing but like atmospheric sea level type thrust, except the end, at the end of the trajectory. Most of it's going to be done on the ground here, and then we need it jettisoning so we can get access to the the engines that work best in the vacuum. So this is probably actually a bit much, to tell you the truth. So obviously the more we add, the more weight. Let's see that. We'll try some engines out and see how our delta V goes down here. We'll just set it as well for now, back to sea level. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these bigger ones now. Skipper, 280 at sea level. A fair bit of thrust, not great. We know about that one. There's some of the big fat ones. Mastodon sounds big and fat. Yeah, 290 and 1283 at sea level. Kilonewtons and that. What about this one? Rhino. Nowhere near as good. Okay. Skiff. Mainsail, 285. They're not bad. That's a lot of power. I think this is the same thing, but just the single version of those four. So this one's probably a winner, considering we get so much sea level thrust, but also vacuum not too bad. When if we does get up out of the atmosphere, we can still use it. So let's, we can stick on more than one. So we'll do that. It's payload, I guess. Yes. No. Coupling. 2.5. Way too small. That's gonna be the biggest, isn't it? Of course it is. Okay, so let's try 4. See how we go. Considering that, why are you not giving me 4? Considering each one we add is gonna have more weight. That's strange. Quad. Maybe that'll work. No, it won't. I don't think this will work either. Oh, it will. There we go. Okay, let's try 4. So we got 5,000 delta V from sea level. A lot of that will be at sea level, but a lot of it won't. So total 9,000. A lot of delta V. Possibly okay. The thing we need to look at is, can the energy of these engines actually lift this whole thing? And if we can find that out here, the thruster weight, and no, it can't. It can't. That obviously needs to be 1 or more to get it past just moving upwards. We need a lot more thrust, please. Let's do that. See how we go. Let's just go all the way. What do you reckon? Because we need about double. 1.4 would be nice. .5 even, would you believe? Maybe even a bit too much, believe it or not. 6. Not enough. Okay, so 8 it's going to have to be. Yes. That has affected our weight situation, so it's taken off a bit of delta V. But I think overall, everything said and done, we should be in the zone in terms of enough fuel. Now, we need to strengthen this because obviously it's a bit shoddy here. And if you think of all the power going on this part, we need to bring out the magic space tape, which will fix all our problems in one. Structural. There she is. Stick these all over it just like it's your first car. You got bumper stickers. Stick it everywhere. Didn't do so well. What about if we try that? Nope. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, then we'll try the bottom part. Come on to the top part. Yes, got 4 of them through. Even more, please. Space sticky tape, can never have too much. Don't think that did very much. It ain't pretty, but it might just do the job. One hopes. Okay, now let's have a look at the engineer's report. Let's see what he says. We probably know more than he does, but yeah. Okay, so decoupler attached the wrong way. Don't believe you. Empty crew cabin. Okay, so let's sort out our crew situation. That's the thing, isn't it? We forgot to put a computer in the lunar module in case we've got a problem with our pilot or something. So let's do that. Let's put a computer in here too. Open the doors. Let's hang a computer on there. Yeah, but not 4 of them though. What do you reckon? Probably a bit overkill. Cool. Okay, so that's done. So the crew, that's what we're working on. And we probably don't need the engineer unless something breaks. We don't really need pilots either, but we'll do it old school. We'll do it proper. We'll do it like they did it for real. We'll do 2 pilots and a scientist, which was the case for the last Apollo mission anyway. And yes, now one of the last things we need to think about is all these forces and all the King's men. We need to think about how the force is being applied. We know where the weight is in this rocket, it's there. What we can find out is where the aerodynamic forces come, which is sort of like the point of drag, which ends up being up here, which is really bad. If you think of this as the point where you control something by pushing it, if you're pushing here, the nose is going all over the place, and that's really bad. So we can fix that with some aerodynamics. So if we add some fins, not only does it like go faster and look cooler, but it'll help us with the control situation. As you can see, already dropped it way down to there, which is good because if you think about it, as we bring the point you're pushing on the rocket to the middle where the weight is, that's will give you the most control, the most maneuverability, because you're pushing where the weight is. If the further past you go, the more it's like you're pushing from the bottom, which is what you almost want if you want to go on a straight line. You don't want the nose moving much, but you're controlling from the back like you're drifting a car. The nose always point in the same direction, which we sort of want when we're going straight up, more or less. So this going below the point of weight is the way to go. And let's just see if we can't even get more. More fins is better, alright? Dearie me. But I think that'll do it. Okay, space tape. Everything. What else am I forgetting here? I think we're good. We've got enough thrust to weight. Got fins. Weight's good. Got parachutes. What else is the hatch obstructed? We know about that. That's because it's supposed to be. Alright, one last thing we could do, or one of the last things we can do, is automate some of our systems. So rather than clicking on the antenna to come up, we can make a button do it, and that's through the action groups up here. So let's do that now. Let's make number 1 the power. So, and when we press 1, the panels will go out and in. When we press 2, let's make the communications. When we press 3, let's open up the service bay. When we press 4, what do you want for 4? The top of this. Docking, yep, toggle the shield. And then, if we open this up for a sec, we can do our experiments with 5. So that, observe it, that, log it, that, log it, that, log it, will all happen when we press 5. As far as this goes, I'm not quite sure how it works. I guess that's our best chance. We might have to play that a little bit when we get into space, if we get into space. It doesn't sound so good, so confident, does it? Oh, we got separated there. I think there's nothing majorly wrong with our rocket at the moment. Alright, we can do the same for this now. So let's do set 2. We can override the default when we want, when the time comes. So same thing, let's do... Well, we don't have any solar panels to extend for this, but we can do the communications, which is 2, right? Yeah. That one. Then in the science experiments. Or maybe the latter for 3. 5 is what we did the other one. So we'll keep 5 for experiments. Log temperature. Log seismic. Log pressure. Log gravity. That'll be 5. Now we did do our little artsy-fartsy landing lights, didn't we? So we'll have to organise that now. This is a bit of a black art. Doesn't always work the best, I find. But what we can do is we can make them at least go on and off with 6, and then 7 we'll try and create a hinge to work properly. So if we toggle the hinge, and then we set our hinges the way they should work. Oh crap. Yeah. it's not good. Okay, right click, here we go. Okay, so our target angle. There we go. Is going to be that. So we need to make a limit that goes max to that. And then the minimum is that. Okay, so we're good. Right, so our toggle is there and the lights are there. So you can set it so they go together, and often I do, but sometimes it works out. You press the button for both, and the hinge will go up, and then it will turn off the light, and it'll be the wrong way around. And it's a bit of a black art, at least for me. Let's redo our fairing. Oh, it's already good. Okay. Yeah, no. Nah, mate. Yeah, but nah. Okay, maybe the space tape is not so happy at the moment. So let's just get rid of it temporarily. We'll redo it later. Cool, now we redo our space tape. Okay. As long as it works. As long as it works. And now for the hardest task of all. Close these doors. That's not the hardest task. To name the craft. So always a struggle. but I think we shall go with Cram Polo 1. Cool. So we haven't done our staging yet. We haven't got our trusses for the landing or the takeoff site yet, but we'll do that in the next episode. We'll leave that there. I'll see you guys then.